Okay, welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky, and today I have the great pleasure of talking with somebody I met at a recent event, and it was a kind of a funny story. And basically, just to keep it very brief, because I reckon I could add 30 minutes to the call just talking about this part. We came into a break at the event, and then I was sort of roaming around, just chatting with people as you do, you're rubbing shoulders and all the rest of it. And then I see this guy, he's just pretty casual, t-shirt on, got the hair happening, and I look down and he's got shorts and no shoes on. Everybody else has got all the full attire, and here's Justin. just casual as can be. And I thought, I've got to talk to this guy. There's no doubt in my mind I've got to introduce myself to this guy, and from there I learned a little bit about him, and then before you know it, we're back in our seats, and my idea for having a conversation was truncated, you could say. So thank you for spending some time with us, Justin.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Not a worry at all. Look, for people who don't know Justin, he owns a business called Evergreen Profits, and the purpose of today is to deep dive into not only the Evergreen Profits business, because we certainly will get into that, but anyone who knows the My Future Business Show platform is that we go one level behind the people behind the business before we start looking at the business itself, because I think podcasts that I've seen at least are heavily focused on the nuts and bolts of the business, where in actual fact our focus here is to talk about the people behind the business, because I find that just as important, if not more important than just those nuts and bolts. So Justin, what are you doing with yourself right now? Where are you located? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
For sure. So I'm actually located up in the high country of Victoria, which is I'm in a little tourist town called Mansfield. It's only I suppose it'd be considered a village by most standards. It's only really 3,000 people in the town, but it's a beautiful spot. It's up in the hills. It's about 3 hours from Melbourne, and I love it up here. I'm a country boy, and
Yep.
I like the fact that I can walk around with no shoes in this town, and it's totally fine. I probably wouldn't be able to get away with it as much in the city. But yeah, yeah, look, I'm actually a full-time single dad. So I've got 2 little kids. And they keep me busy, and so I started the whole working from home business about 7 years ago, and it was mainly so that I would have more time to spend with the kids, and I'm really thankful for that now. I've got a flexible schedule. I can work around them, and yeah, and I only have sort of 4 or 5 hours a day to put into my business, and the rest of the time I can focus on being a dad.
Wow. So I hope you don't mind, but how old are your children?
They're just turned 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Well, we've this side of the fence have a 2 and 5 year old, so I can certainly appreciate the limited amount of time that is available. So I guess that in many respects, Justin, has made you think smart about how you develop your business, and I guess we'll go into that in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does Justin do when he's I guess not working on the business? Is it like full-time parenting? Do you have things you do with your kids?
Yeah, I do. And yeah, I do think I'm actually I'm really I really like being part of a small community up here in a little town. So I'm actually a scout leader. I'm also a secretary of the local Apex Club, which is like a service club that helps out the community.
Fantastic.
And and I've got I catch up with mates and that sort of thing, and doing stuff with the kids, going camping when I can. We're right near a whole bunch of national parks and that sort of stuff, and also I like.
Do you know the old? Do they still break up cubs from scouts?
They do. So I'm actually a Cub Scout leader.
Right. So dib dob dob dob. They still do.
Actually, I think they've ditched that, or they haven't now.
They?
Yeah, no more dib dob. It's just the do your best.
Oh, right. Because as a former Cub and Boy Scout myself from way back now, I remember these things. And, I remember one time going on one of these journeys, and the scout leader said to me, you need to take the lead. You need to choose 3 items that you would have in a trauma situation. What would you have? And there was a choice. I think it was rock and packet of matches and some other thing. But very, very interesting time. So you see a lot of value in that for, I guess, your discipline about how you run your business. Has that helped you?
You mean being involved in scouts and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the discipline behind it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those things that's just helpful for a whole range of life skills. I found that I got a lot of value out of it growing up myself, doing Cubs and Scouts and Venturers. And so, yeah, I've certainly seen the value in that. And so I think it's worth, showing my kids those same sort of things.
They're showing some interest in that sort of thing.
Yeah, they are. Because it's not just about, like, you learn about camping, but also leadership skills and dealing with situations and thinking outside the box and problem solving. It really does cover a wide range of things that you learn in there. Sort of things you don't necessarily learn in school. So it's handy to have that extra.
Well, I actually, this is why I love talking about the people and their lives behind businesses, because I think it reveals a lot about why people are successful in business. I mean, there's the discipline, and you've talked a little bit about leadership, and all of these things I'm sort of, fully aware of. And, I think if there's anything for our audience that they can take away from, I think, besides the nuts and bolts of this, have a look at your own lifestyle and see why it is that you become an entrepreneur. And I guess that leads me into the question about why did you become this entrepreneur, Justin? Were you a full-time worker, or what happened with your story?
Look, I was actually I was working full time. I was actually working full time in my dad's business, so that's always interesting. And there's you can only do it for so long. It's you're always looking for what's the next thing. But look, I initially just wanted to supplement my income with some extra. Extra sort of, I guess, at the time, the idea of passive income sounded great. And then once I got into it, I realized that passive income is actually not as, it's not the holy grail that people sometimes make it out to be. There can be, there's always work involved. It's never truly passive. So anyway, I sort of went down that rabbit hole and started. I initially started just working on my own site. It's really horrible, embarrassing. I don't even want to mention it.
I think we've all been there, mate.
and I learnt a lot of SEO doing that, and eventually thought, right, well, I've learnt these skills. I can start helping other businesses around me in the local community, and then started looking a bit broader, and I realised quickly that it was something that was harder for me to scale, and because of my location constraints, I'm in a very small town. It's a wealthy, touristy small town, but it's still a small town. I'm very far away from the city. I can't get
limitations.
It does. Yeah, it does. I can't get in front of clients. And that sort of thing. So I shifted. I shifted over to website development because there was a need for that. The SEO, for the SEO to work, I needed to fix people's websites, and it was hard finding suppliers. I found that was a massive headache for me personally, trying to get organized for the clients' websites to get fixed up, and eventually just decided, right, I need to set up the systems and hire the people to do that stuff in the business. And then I found that was actually a better business model for me, because I could leverage that. It was a lot easier for me to find experts at website development to join my team and that knew more than me. But it was a lot harder to find people who were better than me at SEO at the time and that sort of thing. So, the business shifted over to the website development side of things.
So, you talk about team. I think there's a lot of, I guess this learning curve is one thing, but then this seems to be this invisible barrier to progress in terms of hiring other people. Did you find that difficult to, let go of, I don't know what personality type you are, or whether or not you're a perfectionist or if you're a controller, and that's a positive reflection. I'm looking at it from the perspective. Was it hard to let go? Is that something you struggle with? Is that something you recommend to people to start hiring?
Yeah, and it really it's always a bit of a challenge. I think it's challenging in different areas for different people, and there's some areas of the business I was more than happy to hand over, and other areas where I sort of held on probably longer than I should have, and that sort of thing, and found it quite hard to trust someone else to do a good as job as me, and that sort of that there is a bit of a barrier there, but it's something that that becomes addictive once you start doing it. Once you start handing things off to other people and training them up, and you see that they can do a better job than you just want to do it more and more and get rid of all your all the things off your plate. And that's really what you need to do in order to grow. You need to be there's often what you start doing in your business. You shouldn't be doing that as your business grows. You work, you find yourself doing and needing to do more and more different activities.
I think if retrospectively, looking on the 80-20 rule, I think that most of us have walked that path where we've gone, I think I can do everything, or, I'm not going to outsource it because it's going to cost me more money, or outsourcing doesn't work. This, to me, it seems like the common theme is the mindset behind it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it is a bit of a mental barrier, but once you break it, it's it's fantastic, and that's the way you scale.
Let's talk a little bit about the core of the business, if you don't mind.
Sure. So our focus now, again, this is due to my personal constraints. Our focus is on the wholesale supply of WordPress development. So our main aim is to help marketing agencies remove that same hassles of delivering website development to their clients that I experienced back when I was focused more on SEO. So I know that people who have a marketing agency that's focused more on SEO or ads or lead generation or even design or copywriting, those sort of things, where websites isn't necessarily their comfort zone, it's not their core focus, but it is something that their clients need. And so they need to make sure that they have a good supplier, and we just attach on the back end of their website, their business, and say, right, you know what the client needs, you work with them on putting together the brief of what they need to have built, and then hand it over to us and we'll do it for you. We'll get rid of all the technical hassles.
And this is the thing, my future business, it's almost like a segue to people like yourself. And later on, if you don't mind, Justin, I'd like to share your details so people can make contact with you if they are into providing marketing services and are struggling with, delivering websites at volume, I suspect, yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Why WordPress? What's the big thing about WordPress? Why do people love it so much?
Well, it is. So there's one thing is that it's an open source CMS, and that means that it's out there for anyone to add things to and adjust, and it's easy to control, and it gives you the ability to build a website that you can put on your domain and you have full control over it, and it's your asset. So so that separates it from the likes of Shopify, Wix.
I see this all the rest of them.
Yeah. So that ability is one of the main things. It's not the only open source CMS, but out of the others like Drupal and Joomla and there's others, the WordPress has become the most popular. It's got a really great community behind it of developers who are enthusiastic about creating plugins and themes and all these sort of things. So it means that there's a lot of solutions out there available, and because it's become such a popular platform. One of the things that made it a popular platform was it was angled around blogging, and blogging is great for your SEO. So for getting found in Google, it just made blogging and SEO very easy, and that created a big community around it. Now that it has such a big community around it, it's very easy to find a WordPress developer, find a plugin, find an integration, whatever you need. Whereas with some of the other platforms,
there seems to me, from my experience, historically, I remember going through the whole, wow, look what I've found, this WordPress thing. I knew nothing about it. I was terrified of it. And I subsequently built a really, really average web pages with about 50,000 plugins, and I wondered why the thing wouldn't work and gave me the white screen of death more often than not. And I thought, you know what? There are just way too many moving parts for me to make this the core of my business. And one of the things that we try to do, Justin, on the calls is to give one aha moment. And that's, I think, the one for this call is that if you're not professing to be a WordPress specialist, don't spend time on WordPress. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. You really, whatever your business is, I found the greatest growth in my business came from when I focused on one core thing that I was going to be really good at, and I outsourced all the other things that I was offering my clients to other people, or other things that weren't in my area of speciality. So once, like I mentioned about, I did a shift to WordPress. It was once I finally said, right, I'm not going to do SEO anymore. I'm not going to do AdWords. I'm not even going to think about any of these other things. I'm just going to get really good at building WordPress websites. That's when I had a massive leap forward in my business. And I think that that's true of whatever business you might have. If your thing is SEO, you shouldn't be fiddling around with WordPress websites. You should say, right, my thing is the SEO strategy, and that's sort of the what it's involved in that, and the WordPress side, I'm going to hand that off to someone else.
Okay, because there seems to be that overlap, and I've always wondered myself, how does that all get managed? You know, you've got the SEO, and you've got the AdWords and the Bing and the LinkedIn ads and Twitter and all these other social integrations that you can have. You've got webinar integrations and Hotjar and all these other tools that we think about. So you've obviously got a very clearly defined roadmap as to scope of what you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just do the design, the development, and the ongoing hosting and maintenance of WordPress websites. That's really all we do. I mean, we do help people out with integrating things like their MailChimp account into WordPress and setting up that sort of thing. So but we won't go so far as to write emails for them or set up an automation campaign or that sort of thing.
Wow, that's incredible. I think there's a lot of value in understanding that, because I know a lot of the people that we have discussions with, they tend to think that they can do all of these things, and there's just not enough hours in the day, frankly.
No, there's really not, and you end up spreading yourself too thin. You think, I can do that, but then that takes away a few hours out of your week that you could be focusing on your core offering, and it's when you eliminate those distractions that you can really nail that core offering and get really good at what you're good at.
Yeah. Did you, when you were testing your offer and you weren't sure that it was a real offer and you were onto something, what was the process for those who are starting out listening to this? What was the process of testing your idea to prove to yourself that it was a valid business model?
Just have a crack, I think. You just have to put it out there and see what it is that people want. You've got to ask the questions. You've got to get and at the start, you don't
through paid traffic.
No, I didn't. No, mostly just relationships, talking to people, networking. Those just more. It was a bit more organically, and I think that by just finding out what people who have a problem, you solve that problem, and they might ask you for other problems. You just help them out where you can, and eventually you'll find, after you just put yourself out there and try and help people as much as you can, you find what types of people you want to help and what types of people you're best at helping, and with what problems you're best at helping them with. Because I've tried. Initially, I did try. Like, I got myself certified as a Google AdWords partner and did all the SEO training. I've done a lot of different things, and sort of because people would say, "Oh, I need help with this. Can you also help me with that?" And I'd just say, "Yeah, look," and I'd go and work it out and do it. But then after a while, I realized that's actually just it's spreading me too thin. We're not giving
It's counterproductive.
Giving an average service across a range of different products. Whereas if I bring it back into just one thing, then I can get really good at it.
Well, I at this event that we were fortunate to meet each other at, I recall the video of a particular mastermind that you were on, and I was duly impressed because I thought to myself, this guy knows that investing in his exposure to those who have walked the path before him, he knows the value of doing that. Can you tell us a little bit about what a mastermind is and why you should get involved with people that know more than you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's certainly something that's been a theme throughout my entire journey online. I've always had someone to be there as a bit of a mentor and help guide me and just keep me on track with my business, because it is very easy in this online space to get distracted by other things that you could be doing. People say, "Oh, look, you can make so much money doing this over here or this over there," and so it's very easy to try and get tempted to go down those paths. And I think it's good to have someone to help guide you through that process. It's always good to get someone who has gone in a similar direction that you're wanting to go. So I've had a number of mentors over the years, and been involved in a number of different masterminds with like-minded people. So certainly, and also people who have had very similar business models to what I want to do. I think that's very important to grow in the online business space, where there's not really a set way of doing it. It's not like traditional business where you can go to school and get educated on how to do it. Especially in the online space, it's really you can do it however you want. So it's good to get the advice of someone who's done it before.
Well, that's great insight. I mean, and when you're actually on these retreats, these mastermind groups, some of them are online, I suspect, whereas others are more face to face. Is there more value in one than another?
No, I think that it's good to do both. Absolutely, there's pros and cons. Obviously, getting face to face is very hard to do on a regular basis, and it's often, especially for me being out in the country, there's not that many people close that I can sit down with. But at the same time, making that time to sit down with people and go somewhere, especially the one that you're talking about, the Maldives one, was it's far away. There's no distractions. You're just sitting there enjoying yourself and talking about business. It's good to have that time out and that time to just chat and get to know people. And what the good thing about masterminds like that is that it's separate from going to a live event where you have people presenting on some ideas that they have. When you get to know the other people in the mastermind and you find out their problems, you can give them more tailored advice, and so you also receive better advice because it's relevant to your situation. It's not just a general, this is how you should do things. This is how I think it would be best for your business in your situation. So that's certainly something that's invaluable. And the other thing is that you quite often learn a lot just by listening to other people's problems and how they get their problems solved. And even if it doesn't apply directly to you, often you can borrow ideas.
Yeah, well, look, I could tell that you were in a good place. You looked happy, you looked relaxed, and I think that's conducive to learning and growing. But the idea of masterminds is not new. It's been around as long as the Stone Age, I guess. This idea of exposing yourself to people, and it's almost as if they know what you're thinking before you say anything. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that can certainly be the case. And another thing is that when you have those kind of situations, especially with a mentor as opposed to a mastermind. When you have a mentor that is giving you advice and you find a good one, James Shamko is fantastic at this. He encourages you to think for yourself and help guide you through solving the problem yourself. And so then you get to a point where you just a problem comes up and you just think, well, what's James going to say to that? And you can often find the solution.
He's going to slap me down for this one, I can tell. Yeah, it's almost as if you feel compelled to answer your own questions before writing it and sending it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah, he's not backwards in going forwards and telling you how it is, and that's where I think this is extremely valuable for anybody who's working with your business. I suspect that you've become fairly, narrow focused to get the best outcomes for your client base. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we focus 100% on getting great outcomes for our clients, and not just for our clients, for our clients. And the reason for that is it's simply that's how our business has grown. I haven't done a lot of paid marketing or paid advertising or anything like that, but by simply serving people, and getting a good result comes back.
There's a bit of a lag here. I apologise.
No worries.
Yeah. So you say you've got organic growth, and I suspect there's seems to be like a knock-on for any good businesses, referrals. Do you largely rely on those, or do you have repeat business?
Well, it's both, because we are mostly wholesale. As long as we keep doing a good job, those agencies are going to keep coming back to us for their clients' work. So we do have that repeat business, and also we have the recurring business of the maintenance and support of the websites that either we build or that just come to us. And then also, through word of mouth, people do tell other people about our services, and so that has been the biggest driver of growth for us, is that. So I think that's one thing that I think that is often missed in a lot of these online business education things. Your focus is on awesome tactics for paid traffic and for SEO or organic traffic or getting yourself out there. But I think that first you need to focus on your quality and getting those organic referrals. And then once you nailed that and you're ready to scale, then you can look at the paid sources to really boost yourself up.
Ramp it up. Yep. Look, just so for everyone who's listening, this is a business. The Evergreen Profit business is about being one step removed as a media service. So if you have a need and you're a media provider and you want to help people build websites at scale, Justin and his business Evergreen Profits is the place to stop by and have a look and have a conversation with Justin. I wonder though, is this your services, Justin, something where just an individual can come and see you? Can you help them at all?
I can, yes, and I do on occasion. It is very good for me to keep engaging with people directly with clients, so that I keep fresh on what how we can serve people best and help our agencies out. But it's not something that I look to do on a large scale, because it's limited by my time and.
Well, that's just the thing. You can't scale yourself, really, can you? There's only a finite amount of hours and days in a week available to yourself, especially being a busy dad.
Absolutely.
There's some boundaries there. But keep in mind, though, that Justin does have a team behind him. So when it's on volume, on scale, definitely make touch base with him. Now, given what we've just talked about, I want to just explore a little bit the ideas of white labeling and reseller. Can you just explain to our audience what white labeling means?
All right, so white labeling is when we provide a service but we don't attach our brand to it at all in any way. That the client will never know that we are the ones that actually provided that service, and so that allows the marketing agency or the consultant to then provide that service to their client and explain that we are their team, and they do it under their brand name, and the client only interacts with them and their brand. They never know that we exist.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we do that all for we actually have a support desk service that we do that with. So they'll have support at the agency, will come through to us, and we can help out the client directly without that consultant being bogged down by questions about technical website stuff. And they can just focus on what they're good at, and we take care of those sort of things for them.
Excellent. Well, that seems to be a big thing, doesn't it? I mean, it's one thing to build a online space for your business to, you know, promote its wares and tell the world what you're about. But I think it's just as important for after-sales service and ongoing maintenance and uptime. And for those who are listening, uptime is essentially just making sure that your website can be seen at least 99% of the time. I don't think there's ever a perfect world scenario here, Justin.
No, there's not. You've got to allow that. Even the best, like we've seen over the last month or so, massive Amazon outage and that sort of thing, and you can't rely on any service to be 100% perfect.
Yeah, and I think there's a takeaway in that, I think, Justin, because there seems to be an unrealistic expectation, I think, primarily for those who are less experienced. Once you've had a few battle scars and you've had a few white screens of death and you realise that, hey, look, nothing's perfect here, I think you become more realistic about what your expectations are. Is there a process that you use in your business to help educate and give them a learning curve?
No, I guess we don't necessarily look at the educational side of that, but what we do is just look to mitigate the risks. So we make sure that when things do go wrong, it's not the end of the world. We make sure that we have 3 layers of backups stored in 3 different providers, you know, so that there's always going to be one that we have, and we make sure that we have a fast response on our support desk so that we can get onto issues and solve them for clients as quickly as possible, and a few other things like that. I'm digging very deeply here. I hope you don't mind, because I'm sure there's people in our audience in the finance game, property investment, and that sort of realm who are definitely interested in your services on scale, because they're agencies themselves, but inside of a kind of a parallel marketplace, and there is definitely a need in those spaces for this sort of service. But when you talk about redundancy and backups, do you have your own server, or do you use Amazon Amazon SES and things like that? No, we do rent a service from another hosting provider, but we have a dedicated server that's just for us, and we only have our clients on that, so we can control the security and the performance of that server. And then we have backups stored on a separate offsite location, like just server backups. But then also for each individual WordPress site, we store backups in both Google and in Amazon servers.
Yeah, well, that it's so important nowadays. There is always that question of security, and we know that Google has, promoting strongly. You might be able to tell me something different, but strongly the idea of going to SSL, secure socket layer protection. I guess that's only one part of it, but are you finding that a lot of people are moving over to that, or has there been a slow uptake with that, or is that just something you recommend by default?
It's something that I do recommend. It hasn't been something that's made, been an important thing that people are asking us for, but we certainly do it. That's becoming easier and easier these days due to scale. But certainly Google has made it clear that they would prefer all websites to have that. They have indicated that it's a ranking factor that they look at. However, I don't think it moves the needle very much at all at this stage.
Negligible.
Yeah.
So is what we've just talked about the reseller component? And can you just, if it's not, just explain that a little bit?
So just the resellers are those agencies and consultants that want to work with us and have us deliver the services for them. They're reselling our services under their brand.
Yeah, okay. Well, just very interested in making sure that the audience here at My Future Business are just aware of the terminology, because sometimes it can be lost in translation about what does this mean versus something else. So thank you for clarifying that. So
Absolutely, it is a danger once you get so far into an industry, you forget about the way most people
the lingo,
the lingo, yeah, the jargon.
yeah. So what's in the pipeline for you? Do you have anything you can tell us about what your plans are for your business? Are you looking to do anything new?
One thing that I'm focusing on at the moment is training, providing educational material to help people who are interested in reselling websites, who are interested in selling websites for their clients, whether they're using our service or not. I'm looking at providing information on how to make sure a website project goes smoothly. And one of the biggest problems I've found, or I've looked at a range of different projects that have gone wrong, and it all comes back down to that initial brief and discussion with the client, and making sure that you're clear on what they want, and that you make it clear that, right, this is the solution we're going to provide. You're going to be getting all these things, and then the client says, yes, that's what I want, and then you can hand that over to the designer and the developer, and everyone's on the same page. That's one of the biggest gaps, I think, in a lot of website development projects. I've seen it not only, I've seen it happen in mine, but also I've had a lot of nightmare scenarios described to me and come to me where it's all gone pear-shaped and they need us to fix it. And so, yeah, it really can be a nightmare if you don't have everyone on the same page at the start. So I'm putting together some stuff to do with that. I've made an initial a free ebook to help with that, and I'm just working on a bit more detailed training.
So, what I've had a good look at Justin's website, and I suggest you do as well. It's at evergreenprofit.com, and go and download the scope. Is it Scope Creep? I think it was called.
Yeah, Stop Scope Creep. Yep.
Stop Scope Creep. You want to say that a few times? No, look, definitely recommended. I don't normally go out of my way to say this, but I know that Justin's the real deal. I've met him in person, and you can just tell when you talk with somebody whether or not they're full of BS or if they're straight up players in their field. And evergreenprofit.com is somewhere where you want to go and check this out if you're interested in having websites, WordPress-based websites built on scale. Justin, this I noticed other parts to the WordPress websites that you do in terms of things like WooCommerce. Tell us just a little bit about the e-commerce space, because I know a lot of people who are interested in that field. Is that hard to configure?
No, it's e-commerce is a slightly different game to just what you call a standard brochure site, where you're just providing information or collecting leads perhaps on a website. When you are processing payments, that's where that things like SSL are required. It's not a it'd be nice kind of thing. You need to have that, and there is also there's complications around what sort of payment gateways you're going to use and how the shopping cart's going to flow and that sort of thing. So it is a bit more involved. There is more work involved in putting together a site like that, just because of the more moving parts. But it's really it's not a massive, it's not a big scary beast. And that WooCommerce is just the WordPress's e-commerce platform. It was actually initially a separate business, but WordPress have bought that into the fold. The guys at Automatic have they bought that business. They're the ones that create WordPress, and so that's now definitely the best platform to go with WordPress. There are other options out there for e-commerce websites, and they have their different pros and cons. I'm not saying that WordPress is the best, but it's certainly very good. And if you already have a WordPress website, adding on that e-commerce element is a much easier way than shifting to a whole different platform. And you do get other benefits.
There's just so much that I could spend hours talking about with you with this for a multitude of different reasons, some selfish and others not so much. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Justin. I wonder if you wouldn't mind, sharing with people how they can actually find you. Is there a particular email? Do they just go to your website? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to get in touch is via support@evergreenprofit.com. That's where me and the team put most of our effort all day, every day. We make sure that we have a quick response on that, and because we also provide that same service to our resellers. So yes, definitely support@evergreenprofit.com. I'm in there all day, so that's the best way to catch me.
Okay, well look, I normally have a write-up of the call done, so I'll make sure to put in all of the relevant contact details. So Justin Meadows of evergreenprofits.com, thank you so much for joining us on the My Future Business show today.
No worries, pleasure's been mine. Cheers.
And let's do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Okay, see you, mate.